So, welcome to another Fresh Takeover. Today we have got me, myself, Kirk, and we've got amazing Amanda. Don't know if she's on that side or that side because the way that recordings work, they always end up putting us in a different place. In fact, they might even change our voices. I might be Amanda and she might be, but anyhow.
It'll be
So today,
creepy Friday instead.
yeah, we might have to get some puppets and let them talk for us. Um, so basically, today is going to be a subject about are women being treated equally? And as I'm a man, I do not know. I can only hear from the lady's perspective. So we've brought a lady on board. Also, she's a member of Fresh, so it's much easier to know where you're going to go with a conversation, and it's less of a chance of you insulting somebody because we've got a history. Anyway, so Amanda, I think as I was saying to you earlier on, the reason why I came up with the subject because I was watching something on my phone earlier on about how women are being treated differently to men. So I wanted to see what your perspective was, and as you've got, you've got your female friends, or and you guys have discussions, you guys will know a little bit more than I do about the situation. So I'm going to let you take the floor and I will come in and say when and whenever, but it's all about you. It's not about me today.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I suppose there's many areas to look at really. I mean, in terms of being treated differently, I mean it's gone on for centuries really.
Hmm.
It was only until that we're actually in Women's History Month for the moment. I mean like it wasn't until the 20th century with the suffragettes where they were fighting for votes for women,
Yeah.
which finally happened. But then in terms of women working, that didn't happen until I think during the Second World War,
Uh huh.
where obviously all the men had got off to battle. So obviously somebody needed to fill in those spaces. And then
Yeah.
that's where, I mean, I only found that out a couple of years ago. I had no idea. And then so then women managed to fill in those spaces, and then after that, that sort of carried on um, into starting to allow women to work. But I think in terms of, I think with how do you put it? I suppose I'd say first of all with a lot of stuff I've been viewing recently from dramas, historically, like what's it called? Um, Mrs. America,
Okay.
which has what's her name, Kate Blanchett, and which is about I think about 9 leading women during the 60s,
Okay.
and one of them was in a party that didn't want equal rights for women. They wanted the woman to stay home, be the housewife, and everything like that. Whereas there was another party called Equal Rights activists who wanted more activity for women.
Hmm.
Let us work like you. Let us do this more than just put it on the stove every night. And I
Yeah.
thought that was quite an interesting thing to see, that because the people who wanted the equal rights people to shut up, they actually had a lot of intelligence.
Okay.
They'd been to university, they'd studied and stuff like that. They have degrees. They're they've made a bit of money as their husbands, but for some reason their thought was just no, the woman needs to stay at home and do all of this while the man goes and works out. And I thought that was really interesting to watch, to see sort of like two sides, whether you're seeing it
Yeah.
as hypocrisy or they just want to learn more, but then not really use it. But I
Yeah.
suppose if you have all that intelligence, and why not give yourself the chance to actually use it and inspire others
Yeah.
instead of keeping it the same? And I think that's, I suppose in other terms, there's also been like the level of how much power the man can have over the woman. Like if you look at things like jobs, like the highest position, you usually see um, there'll be a man there, like as a
Yeah.
CEO, etc., and stuff like that. And I mean, things like that are changing. But obviously, I mean, all of this is going to take time, but I suppose people have to accept it as well as encourage it more. Like I have my cousin, if you're watching, hello Zoe. She's been doing a few, well, not a few actually. She started a program called Miss Independent to
Okay.
sort of encourage young girls to, yeah, to go out there and go for it. You know, live your
Yeah.
dream, get the job that you want, not what is, I suppose, placed there for you. But go out and do what you want. Start your own business. Sorry, my laptop's a bit weird. And start your own business, organization, etc., and stuff like that. And also with that, you know, there's been things going on about the pay gap, the gender pay gap as well.
Hmm.
And I mean, I suppose that's another story in itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see stuff like that. So every time I see her, I always hug her. I'm like, you know how good you're doing, yeah.
Yeah.
Carry on with it. And so I think it's more of speaking your voice. Like I always used to say this to my classmates in uni when I was a course rep, that if you don't say something, your voice isn't heard. So because what I needed them to do was to tell me um what maybe needs to be done or changed or whatever within the course, and I'll pass it on when I have the meeting with the deans and stuff like that. And some of them were a bit shy or a bit
Mm.
nervous to do so. But I was like, no, just say anything. Don't worry. Your name won't go forward. But my point is, if you don't say anything, your voice isn't heard.
Yeah.
We won't know if we can change that or not. So, and then after a while, you know, we started conversating more and things like that. So it's, I think it's a matter of, I think for I suppose it can be a generational thing as well, because like in terms of stereotypes that can sort of be programmed into you, I
Hmm.
suppose sometimes without even realizing. So it can be, and it can be passed on down from like grandma to mum to daughter,
Yeah.
or or to children. Sorry, should I say? So like so like what you're saying um with the video about the gym, in terms of what the goodie bag that the guy got and the equipment that they had compared to what the women had and the goodie bag they had. I think people may not take women as seriously as they do with men in sports or the active area, because apparently we're not as strong as. And I think in uh, there is information that, not that we're weaker, but the man is slightly physically stronger than the woman anyway. But I think in which is true, but it shouldn't be looked at as a thing that we won't be able to lift up a dumbbell or run on the what do you call it, the treadmill for like 20 minutes or whatever. But I mean, like, you just have to look at our Team GB
Yeah.
ladies at the moment and see the success that Dina Asher Smith has done, Kelly Holmes, Jessica Ennis-Hill. I mean, I could give you a whole list, but
Well, the thing was, and you know what I saw as a problem was it wasn't like a gym that everyone can go to. It was literally a big basketball event, like American basketball
oh,
event.
okay, yeah,
So, you know, um, without thinking about strength, it was about like a big event where you don't know who's stronger than who, for one,
mm,
and at the same time, it's the same event. So how comes people are being treated differently? I mean, if you've got a budget, you kind of budget for the whole thing. You don't go, okay, this is what we're going to budget for one part, and this is what I'm going to leave for the scraps. Which for me, when I visually looked at it, it was just like scraps. It's like, and it's only until a female on the basketball team had done some little research herself. So she went to go, like, how excited you are when you go and you're there for a day or a weekend or whatever, and you go and look, you just do your little look and you video. And to see the difference, the big difference, it's almost like 5% or even less than that. 5% was spent on women or less, and 95% was spent on the men,
mm,
because you can visually see that there's no way. you can go like, okay, all right, so you know the guys have got bags and a coat, the women have only got bags, and you can maybe go, okay, that's a mistake, or because the reason why the women ain't got bags is because there wasn't enough bags to make it, sorry, coats to make it equal. You literally, the, it's kind of disgusting looking at it and going, how could they have so much and they have so much little, regardless on strength. It's how much you look at the value of, because really and truly, when it comes down to top sport, the only reason why something's going to be more valued than other is because one has probably been out longer than the other. But
Yeah.
if you're trying to change anything, at least if you're trying to make a statement for yourself, what you're trying to do is treat them the same. So at least, even if you don't feel they're the same, you're visually putting the effort out there that we're gonna treat you the same, regardless. So, as far as I was concerned, like, I'm not saying that I'm anybody, but as far as I'm concerned, the person that did it would either have to get fined or sacked, because you are making a statement. We live in a world where social media comes from anywhere. So,
Mm.
you thinking you can get away with it is as silly as bringing a VCR and trying to plug it into your laptop. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's so old fashioned, and even going down to the meals that they're eating, they're completely different. Like it's almost like, I don't know. It's almost like going to get a a supermarket sandwich, a basic supermarket sandwich, and someone's eating lobster. That's the levels of the disrespect it was, and it's like, okay, um, you know, like, I'm not a female, and I'm offended, and then the, what happens is you start to look at ripples of how much of these things, and I guess, like, I don't live in a place where I I look at things and things not being equal. I live in a space where there should be like unity, and that's how my mindset is. And
Mm.
if someone gets treated differently, then that's a discussion to have. But like, I generally don't have myself around situations like that, so I don't know. So watching it was like, it was insane. And then hearing other people, even down to the court. The court, when you looked at the men's basketball court, it was nice, it's freshly done and whatever. He looked at the females' court, it was a basketball court as well as a netball court.
Okay.
So, like, the levels of the disrespect, and the fact that someone can just be like, it's okay. Like, you know, like, obviously there's money. If you don't have enough money for everything, there's places where you can cut down and make it equal, or ask for more sponsorship. And especially when you mentioned earlier on, it's you know history of women. You'd think that at least you can do is make the women look better than the men.
Mm.
There's a like, especially when you go down to, normally, before things became popular and you had women in more sports and it was made to look okay. Um, you had men winning stuff and being highly paid and whatever. You know, you you could make a statement by changing that around. You
Yeah.
know, change it around, and not just that, is that you know you could be pushing things to make it a statement. You are making a statement. If you do it as a one company, you're making a statement.
Yeah.
Everyone else will have to look at the problems that they have. But anyway, it's not about me. It's about you.
No, I agree with everything you're saying because, like, I suppose, I mean, even just with making a statement, that sometimes can even feel not feel like a challenge, but
Hmm.
sometimes a woman literally has to shout to
Yeah.
lose their voice to be heard. Like, I mean, it's really sad what happened to um uh the sorry, I've forgotten her name, but who was kidnapped by the policeman and unfortunately died. But
Well,
then
Dan
before the
Clapham.
protest, sorry.
Dan Clapham, Clapham,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, you saw the protest that that caused like a major protest down Clapham, and you know, just for those who were there, well, not even those that are there, I suppose, literally all women, like, yeah, we're here saying this because we don't feel safe. Are you going to hear us now? I mean, I don't want to go into protests and stuff like that, but I mean,
yeah,
like, it's just like that I suppose that activity of just constantly shouting it and repeating it and stuff like that. It's like, are you hearing me? This has been said many times. Are you hearing me? No. Are you hearing me now? Okay. Did you see what happened last week? Yes. Are you hearing us now? No. And it's like, and I think it's more. I suppose some people. I suppose some people just don't are scared of that change. They just want to keep things the same. Whereas if we're all living in this world and we're going on year by year, if we're moving on by time, can we not move on with our feet and activities as well? Can that not be open like within sport? I mean, like women's sport here, just saw a report yesterday. I think finally now they're putting that on mainstream TV with football on mainstream TV on BBC, whereas before it wasn't. And looking at what how they were earning money and where they were playing compared to the men's teams. And I'm a big Arsenal fan. Okay, my Arsenal stuff isn't here, but the female Arsenal's team has won more trophies than the men.
hmm,
Then when I saw, I think I can't remember where I saw it, but seeing what I suppose the average female player was earning compared to the men's was literally what the guy earns in a week is what she earns in a year, and a lot of them had to have part-time jobs for it. They didn't have their own ground to practice on.
yeah.
They don't technically have their own changing space and stuff like that. And I don't even know if they use the same stadium. I'm guessing they do because it's the team. But other than that, the only thing that was the same was the kit. But then past that, there's such a big gap in it, and it's good that the lady from Chelsea had actually. I suppose that's good that it's been reported and now put on mainstream TV. But then hopefully that's not where it stops. If that player from Tottenham can earn what 25 grand in a week, why isn't the lady doing the same? Like I think last year Chelsea won. Why have they not upgraded their pay to match Chelsea's men's standard if they just won the Premiership and vice versa? Vice versa. But I think it's a lot to think about, and people don't want to offend, but then they don't want to how to say it. Yeah, they just don't want to change. It's like, no, it's fine. You're fine where you are. As long as you're doing good, it's fine. We'll just leave it there.
Do you know what's weird about that though? Is like I'm hearing what you're saying, but the thing is, there will always be change, whether you like it or not. There's going to be change, and the more you try to fight you want to be, change, it's still going to happen around you. You could be living in a bubble, but things are still going to, look at lockdown. There's a lot of things that have changed compared to when we were in lockdown. Even planning to if we can go out and do whatever, it's still a change process. But I mean, I got like I'm thinking people say things won't change, especially let's go with the funding of the footballers at this point in time. They can say they can't afford it. They can't afford to change. That's what they're gonna say. But then I'm gonna think, so why don't you just put a cap on the footballers that are making them certain money at this point in time? Because it doesn't matter. Like once you've made a certain amount of money a week, what are you gonna do with more money a week? You know. So if you have a cap, like you're a footballer and this is the most you can make, then it allows the females to get a boost on their paycheck, you know? Or there should be a thing of supporting, you know? support. If you're playing football and your fellow football player, it doesn't mean that you're playing together on the pitch, but your fellow person that's on the same sort of representing the same brand or the team, why wouldn't you want them to be equal? Why wouldn't
Mm.
you like? Why wouldn't you want to be part of that change? I mean, really and truly, when you're older and when you're older, your money's gonna go down anyway because they're gonna be like they can't invest in you because you can't play the same. But wouldn't you prefer to be in a situation when you went, okay, it was part of me. I was part of the reason why my female colleagues got to be able to not have to work as hard as they have been, you know, be able to have the equipment. And why do they need to why do they need to play in the same pitch as us? I mean, not saying that they're not good enough to, but why does it always to be a female has to share a man's pitch? I mean, it's a bit like men would never feel like they could share a woman's like the manly man would probably feel more insulted to share a woman's thing. Like go change in a woman's changing room. Like a lot of women might be told that there's only one changing room, it's the men's, and there's probably thousands and millions of women that have to go into that situation and change because there's
Mm.
not been, a space for women to change. So, it should be flipped around. And going to the other point when you're saying about, the lady that that got murdered by someone that was part of the police force, you know, like how many times do you feel like you need to say anything? I mean, you shouldn't really need to
Mm.
say anything. I mean, I think if I can remember, when we were in Europe, we was one of the most the country that had the most cameras in Europe as a small country.
Oh, okay.
So
Ah, I didn't
like,
know.
but and I mean, especially in London as well. Like,
Yeah.
why? And you know, how does a female feel in a situation when you find out that a random person's killed a random person, a male's killed a woman? It's bad enough, but to think about a police officer,
Mm.
it's just another level of. For me, if I was a female, I'd feel like, where do I go? Because
Yeah.
police are supposed to be here to protect me. And even if I do go through a situation where, you know, someone's hurt me now, I can't trust another policeman because, I don't know what they're gonna do. And
Mm.
and this is where a policeman or police person will get brushed with the same brush because, even if a female policewoman gets involved, you're gonna think you work with him. You know, like, how do I know I'm safe? And how do I know that you think you won't get away with? Because I'm sure there's been women in the world that's harassed women. So
Yeah.
where does the buck stop? And how does a let's say someone like yourself, how do you feel so safe in this situation? I heard that what they want to do is, when clubs open now, what they want to do is have police, undercover police in the club.
Yeah.
What I,
That's
what I,
yeah.
what
Went
I
on.
heard is that they want police to be around when you're outside the club. I mean, they say that a police person killed a female woman. A police male killed a female woman. What is this that you're doing that's making anyone feel fear any less? In
Mm.
fact, I probably feel more for ladies now because you're not even listening to what happened. You're just saying, okay, well, this is what happened to that female, so we're gonna put more policemen. More the more opportunity for a policeman to do, that to a female.
Mm. I think they're. I mean, I think the key thing that I keep hearing a lot of the time is education. Like watching. I think when it was on Loose Women. Um, oh, who was it? Okay, one of the Loose Women who was had a discussion with their children about the situation, and asked her son, "What would you do?" Oh yeah, and he was very intelligent, giving really positive um, answers. I'd cross the road or something like that, just so that she doesn't feel scared or anything like that. And then she did like some role um, what do you call it, role play with him. So they swapped characters, and so I thought that's actually quite a good way to do it without um, shoving it in, I suppose, a guy's face that you need to protect them and all that stuff. Like, you don't want people to go crazy with this, but I think you just need to get it in our minds that you know everyone should feel safe when they're out and about. But if things like this happen, then where do we go? But I think if you start it from something like education, whether it is in a school or just having discussions and stuff like that, then that can that that can sort of, I suppose, soften it a little bit. But I think in terms of, um, I think that the idea of putting policemen in clubs, I wasn't too sure about that because um, I suppose everyone's going to feel a bit nervous uh, when they're in a club. I mean, in a way, okay, yeah, it's for safety, but then also you don't want obviously the officer to get the wrong idea as well when something's happening. There could have just been like, oh, like maybe they slipped over or something like that, and then next, okay, you buddy, come with me or something like that, or vice versa. And so you don't want things to go out of control there. I mean, I would say test it somewhere or something like that. But I would say if they can actually, it is that one is quite a tricky one because I've been in a situation myself where I was mugged while having a seizure, and yeah, I was on my way to uni, and they had taken my bags. I had all my uni work in it and stuff like that. So, I mean, my tutors were really supportive, and straight away they were like, "Okay, we're going to leave the tutorial for now. Call the police, call your bank, and everything like that." And they went. She took me back to the station. Can we see the CCTV? And the guy said no. And my tutor was just doing all the talking. I was like, okay. And then, but he was just like, no, you can't. Oh, okay. But she's lost her bags. All my work is in there. There was even letters in there that had my address on.
Hmm.
And he was just like, no, you can't do that. I mean, it was taken to the police. I was taken to about 5 different police stations before something even started to happen. And even with that, even then I asked the police, can I see the CCTV? Because actually my to give my neurologist the information what type of seizure I was having. And they were like, no, because you may change your statement in court. Like, okay, I haven't even given you a statement yet, but fair enough. And I mean, it wasn't until, and then finally it took me back to Shepherd's Bush Station, which was where my campus was. And the first, forgive me if I got the titles wrong, constable, detective, whatever they're called, the head of the um the service. Somehow they backed out. This was a guy, and then a woman came in, and she actually started phoning me, seeing if I was okay and everything like that, and tried as much as they could. Um, Found the saw the person who it was because they had taken money out of my account as well, and then found their address. Apparently, no one was there, so then case closed. So like, oh, okay, are you not gonna knock on their door again or something like that?
Hmm.
And then it's like case closed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks for your help anyway. So it was a little bit like, oh, now what happens? So then, I mean, when you have situations like that, when you're meant to feel safe, but then not much happens, I understand to an extent. If no one personally technically lived in that house, I can understand, okay, there's not much evidence we can do here, so it will have to be stopped. But there still wasn't a lot of information being given to me in that time, as well. Then after a while, I just when it was closed, I just thought, okay, I'm gonna leave it. And yeah, if someone does knock on my door with my stuff, okay, thank you. But then that was about it, I suppose. And I mean, I've always been like in and out, I suppose, in my mind with the police. But any situation that does happen, I will literally just go straight there anyway, because it's an emergency service. It's supposed to be provided for us to keep us, to help us with protection and find out what's happening. But I suppose everyone will have their some people will never go because they feel like they're not they won't be believed, or they won't be accepted, or oh sorry, we can't help you, there's nothing here. And I mean that happens a lot with, I suppose, things like assault and rape and stuff like that, because a lot of women feel like they won't be they won't believe them. And I always tell my friends, sorry, um, when one of my friends was abused, I said to her straight away, just go to the police. I know it's hard, and she didn't want to because she thought she didn't have enough evidence apart from a few pictures. Another one who'd been abused for a couple of years, she was just like, no, because it will take too long. I'm just like, always just go to the police if there is something like that. Otherwise, you know, how do you go forward from this? And if you do, then other people can, that might also give the encouragement for other women to use to say something and use their voice. So I think it's kind of like half and half here. We need your support, emergency services, but we also need you lovely ladies, to just use your voice and let it out, really. You know, go beyond Frozen with Let It Go and let it out so that, you know, people can hear, you know, like how they keep saying, say her name, forgot her name,
Yeah.
who sadly got murdered, but you know, they keep saying, say her name. When George Floyd died, they kept
Mm,
saying, say his name, so that people get it.
mm.
But I just hope that you know, people will get it and yeah, want to do more about it, whether it is to tell their story, whether it is to bring in support and
Well,
things like that. So
I'm gonna bring back something that you said, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this off and make another part. So stay tuned to part two, where me and Amanda carry on this conversation.
I live my life, I do it big. Yeah, I live my life.